Hello, Earl here. What I'm going to talk to you people about today, hopefully you can listen, I can help you a lot, I can save you a lot of money. If you will listen to me about the hoaxing and the scamming people are being hit with on these Harley Davidsons with your CVO engine, your 1999 up to your 2007. You are being hoaxed, you are being conned, you are being lied to. And these engines can be simple and reliable to work on if you'll listen to me. I'm a master engineer, machinist, mechanic. I know what I'm talking about. I'm age 61. I've got years and years and years of experience. Okay, what I'm going to start out with, I'm going to address 3 subjects here. Now this is pertaining to your CVO, engine. Your Harley Davidson CVO. Okay. Cam tensioners. Okay. Out of true at the shaft, and let's see, I wrote this down. I've got other things on my mind. Let me keep this in order that I want to address for y'all. Let me put on my reading glasses. I'm getting cataracts here. And a shaft wobble. These hoaxes. Okay. First off, the only way your shaft could end up wobbling is if your case bearing was loose or worn to hell. And the only 2 ways that could happen was from lack of oil or extreme abuse of the operator. Otherwise, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen any more so than what would happen to your engine's crankshaft in your car. I mean, you're going to have to do some crazy things. You're going to have to be some kind of wild, crazy person that revs your engine to 7,000 RPM and does wheelies and jumps cars like Evel Knievel before that could ever get that extreme. And it would still have to narrow down to the fact that you wouldn't be getting off, because that roller bearing in the case that shaft end sets in comes from the flywheel through that bearing and then out to your cam area, your cam case area. Okay, that bearing, if it gets proper oil, you're never going to have any trouble with that. That's a super strong bearing. Alright, now, where that shaft goes into that flywheel on the inside of your engine case, on that right side of that engine, that's never going to come loose to where it could actually wobble. That's not going to happen because that's press fitted in there. I mean, it's not going to happen. Because you're talking about steel, pressed into steel, or cast nodular iron pressed into same. It's not going to come loose, people. And there's also a notch in that shaft where it presses into that CVO flywheel to where that can never turn out of true. Okay, the other hoax myth is that they take the lower outer cam gear off of the shaft on the bottom, and they say, let's put a dial indicator on it to see if it's gotten out true. That is absolute lies and bullshit. People, that's a fixed assembly there. If they see any out of true on that shaft end when they take that lower cam gear off the shaft, I mean, that would have had to have been that way at the factory when the engine was brand new, don't you see? Because that part doesn't move against the where the gear's bolted on. Once that gear's bolted on the bottom, that operates your outer cam gears in your chain, that's a fixed assembly, people. You know, it's like the any car engine, gasoline car engine. Your pulley that and your harmonic balancer that bolts on the front of your crankshaft, that's a fixed assembly with a cotter key in it. How in the hell is it going to come out of true? Because, see, those two parts are fixed into one another. In other words, the fixed part to where it's pushed on, anchored onto the other one, then bolted on tight. I mean, those two parts, the inner part and the shaft end, are not moving against each other. So out of true, my ass. That's not going to happen. Your timing is based on where okay, it's several things here. Where the shaft presses into the CBO flywheel, to where the notch is in the flywheel to hold it in that one place. That way, and its purpose isn't even to hold it, it's just so that it's marked, it can only be pressed in that way. That way the timing will be accurate for that engine design. Alright, now where it goes through your cam plate and then it comes out, okay, that, when you bolt that bottom gear on there, that's a fixed assembly, people. There's nothing that can come out of true. So, you know, and I've seen on a lot of these repair sites, they're conning you people. They take that off and then they put a dial indicator and say, oh, on this side it's out of true 6L. Yeah, it was that way at the factory. Because those two parts don't move against each other. It's a fixed assembly. Alright? So no, your crankshaft end is not going to wobble and your timing is not going to go out of true. That's not going to happen. Okay, that is a hoax where you're being lied to. Now these cam tensioners. Those cam tensioners, do you know that those engines will run just fine? You take that cam cover off, you've got that outer tensioner that rides on the left side of this chain from looking at the engine from the front. The shoe over on the furthest right, that's a stabilizer, okay, that sits there. You know, it's between the two gears. That's a stabilizer. That's fine. Nobody ever mentions having a problem with those. I guess that's because they don't flex back and forth the way the one on the left side and the way the one does behind the cam plate that rides on that chain. You can run those engines without those tensioners, people. The reason Harley Davidson put those on there, on those engines, because their sales slogan was, our engines no longer have the noisy lower end. They are the quietest engines on the motorcycle market. Those are sound deadeners. That's all they are, sound deadeners. Because you take that chain. Okay, let's talk about the front cam chain on this assembly you're looking at. Alright, you've got this. Let me take a drag of my cigarette, okay? Now listen to me. Alright, that nylon shoe, and then you got this piece of metal, you know, and it's two pieces of metal there, you know, that are molded into one part, and then you got the pin that holds the shoe on that, and then you've got a spring. It has attachments on both ends. Okay, it puts pressure against it like that. Okay, that spring on there, I can take any short screwdriver and I can take the whole tensioner and push it back and forth. Alright, so what this means, when you're running that engine and you rev it, then you decelerate, you know, or whatever, that does flex inward, back and forth, meaning it actually is not made to stabilize the cam chain at all. That's not its purpose. It's just a sound deadener is all it is. So, and there's no way that could keep the chain from wearing against the outer cam tooth that could not cause that to wear more, and it could not cause the cam chain to come loose from those gears. In other words, what I'm telling you, you can take those off. You don't have to have them in there. Take them off. If one ever gives you trouble in that metal to metal, it's running against the chain because the shoe end wears completely out or breaks off, take your cam blade off, take it off. Take it off. Okay, the one on the back, pry it up with a screwdriver or some other object where you can get under it and pry it up. You have about this much room between the top of the case and the top of the cam blade. Pry it up. Okay, here's how I fixed my son's Dynalo, and that was 9,000, yeah, he said 9,700 miles ago. I took a pair of needle nose pliers and I pried that side of that tensioner over the top of the cam plate, and it broke loose from the other side of the metal, and then I grabbed that and bent that over the top of the cam plate. That way it can't ever go back down on the chain. And the spring's not going to fall in there on top of the cams or on top of the chain. And then I just, you know, before I did that, you know, when I bent it back, you know, I held a screwdriver under that to catch the shoe when it fell down on that with the pin. And then just discarded that. And the tensioner, you know, that was on the, because when we bought this Dynalo that my son's riding, it had 72,000 miles. That shit was all gone, you know. And the outer tensioner, I took the damn thing off. I just took it off. And I felt of the chain, the slack in it. The chain was still good. All right. And, you know, you get the chain to where it's an equal looseness on each side by turning the engine. I turned the back wheel on the motorcycle with the spark plugs out. And I grabbed that bolt where that top, you know, cam is, and I put pressure, I couldn't wiggle it up and down, so the bearings were good. Okay, the bottom cam, I grabbed that and tried to wiggle it up and down a little bit, about the way it's supposed to be. So that engine's bearings were fine and those cams were fine on that motorcycle. I put that cam plate back on there, and he's ridden it 9,742 miles since I did that 3 years ago. You can run those, and here's some of my other bikes I have. My bike that I love the most is my 2002 Harley Softail Standard. It's got the extra chrome, solid rear, billet style rear wheel, just like the Flat Boy. Actually, those actually use the same Fat Boy frame. It's just your front forks are different on those is all. I also have a 2004 Fat Boy CVO 1450. My 02 is a 1450, you know. And the Softail, it's got 38,000. The Fat Boy has 85,000 miles on it. And I've checked the tensioners in that. They're still good, but see, I've always used good oil in it, you know. I mean, I keep it full or whatever. Now on the 02 Softail, I've never had the cam plate off that one. I bought it a year and a half ago. It had 38,000. It's not noisy down there, so I don't bother it. But even if one of those nylon shoes is wore out and it breaks, so what? They say that can suck that up through those oil pumps. No, it can't. No, it can't. Look, people, take one of those oil pumps. Look at one, blow it up, a picture of one on the internet. Those CVO oil pumps. Okay, first off, it's almost totally horizontal the way it sits in there, okay? Because it has to ride off the shaft, you know, and it goes back over to this left side of the case you're looking at. That hole, that pump side, where the case drops full of oil from your oil tank, and where that sucks that up, First off, if a pin falls down in there, or the retaining spring, whatever, that's not going to go up through that oil pump hole. They tell you that, but no, it's not. Have you ever seen one? Exactly. It's never happened. Okay, because you figure, you know, take a cup, put some oil in it, and then drop a piece of metal like that. I mean, it's not going to float or jar to the top and go through that hole. Now, a piece of that plastic from the shoe, but a piece of that nylon plastic, if it's small enough to go through that hole, your pump gears are going to mash it to death and disintegrate it. And it's sure as hell not going to hurt your connecting rod rollers or your case roller. How is it going to hurt it? It's just particles of plastic. It's going to work back through your filter. And even that is not likely to occur. Because I've seen some of these Harleys, if you look at online, a lot of these engines, it'll be to where that the outer tensioner, it'll be flipped down totally underneath, and the pin in the shoe will be in the bottom of the case. But then, the same person, once they take the cam blade off, and then they show you the oil pump's not damaged. Explain that. See, I mean, you know, what can happen can only happen. You know, you figure, I mean, the hole in the oil pump, that pin that held the shoe on is not going to float up there and go in your oil pump. The spring can't get in there, so it's only going to be portions of that plastic nylon shoe. That's all. And that's not going to hurt anything. Okay? So if it was me, if mine, I heard a loud scraping sound, meaning the shoe was completely wore out. On this latest bike I got, the O2 Softail, I'm just going to take the cam blade off and take the gosh damn tensioner off. You know, and as long as my chain's not wore or whatever, and my bearings are good, I'm going to keep riding it. And it's not going to hurt anything. See, I'm telling you, I'm a mechanical engineer, people. I mean, I know measurements. Now, let me explain to you why that you can run one without the tensioner. Alright, the engineers that measured and made those chains and those gears, okay, on there. Let's take the outer one. That assembly, there is no way that that spring-loaded tensioner could be there to prevent that chain from ever breaking or slipping out of time, like jumping a tooth of gear. There's no way that can be there for that reason, because when you take the stress of an engine, if you take any one of those and you run them like for 10 seconds with the cam cover off, with the tensioners on there, let's say one's brand new and you're looking at that, okay, what you're going to see when you rev that chain is going to slap that tensioner back. Well, okay, you take the tensioner off, it's going to do the same thing. So people, what is the tensioner for? It doesn't have to be there. It's a sound deadener. That's all it is, a sound deadener. You know, like when a kid rides a bicycle, the chain that goes from the front sprocket to the rear wheel, okay, if you set the bicycle upside down, you know, when I was a kid, that's the way we would take the back wheel off to change the tire, or if something went wrong, you know. Okay, you turn the pedal and the chain's turning the back wheel, you can hear that sound. Harley put those tensioners in there to deaden that sound out, so. Because they wanted that, they were in competition with Japanese motorcycle manufacturers. And they wanted to create the slogan, our engines, now the mechanical assembly is the quietest, Well, that's what those were for. See, that's a sound deadener. That's all that is, a sound deadener. Now, the right shoe, it's usually black on the outer cam area. Okay, what that's for, it's a stabilizer, in other words. It's to stabilize the chain, like and to help it to where that the chain links go over the top of the teeth on the upper gear and on the underneath of the gear on the bottom gear there. Okay, it's so that it's pushed closer to the following gear under or following teeth under the teeth that are on the side. You know, it's a quicker meet is what it is, which again aids in quietness, and the chain will last longer. Okay, because and it can handle more stress like that, because it's going to have not only the teeth on top, like the top gear, and the teeth on the side, but the first tooth on the underside of it is also going to be very close because it's at an arch. So that's what that's for. Now that was a good idea, but the tensioners don't need to be there. There's no purpose for them, you know, other than that sound deadener. Now it'll be a little louder, you know, but my son's Dynalo, I can't tell any difference. I mean, you know, he starts it and he's been running it that way 9,742 miles, you know, for 3 years, and it's still just fine. I mean, you know, I'm just, there's a lot of garbage out there, people. It's just to make money. It's to make money. You know, a repair shop is never going to tell you about modifications. In this life, they're not going to tell you, you know, about ad-hand modifications. There is ways to do things, because see, they're going to make more money making you think things have to always stay the same, you know, always stay the same. But anyway, hope y'all have a good day, good night, whatever it be. You know, to me it's morning, and good luck out there, and ride safe, man. You know, I mean, if you're not up to par, you're feeling a little shitty, whatever, don't ride, you know. It's ride as safe as you can. And also realize a lot of people in these four-wheelers, cars, whatever kind of vehicle you're talking about, they want to see you get in an accident, because they hate motorcyclists that come from motorcycle media. In other words, people in cars, they don't think a motorcycle has the right to take up space on any road or highway. I've even met people that don't even think a motorcyclist has the right to one parking stall. You know, it's just they don't think for some reason that us motorcyclists, bike owners, bikers, for some reason they don't think we have the right. When they're joyriding in their cars, or they're using it to commute to work or whatever, and we're doing the same thing. You know, but for some reason we're not supposed to be as significant as they are. You got to know that that's the psychology of most people. Be careful. But anyway, good luck, everybody. Later.